Hello. Today I wanted to talk about another way that you can find where your ancestors lived, even if nothing still exists of their homestead and everything has just moved into farmland. But before I do that, I wanted to say thank you to everybody that has been reaching out by email with their genealogy frustrations, triumphs, people that want to hire me for projects, people looking for free advice on their research. I love it. Keep it up. Happy to help whenever I can. So never underestimate satellite view for finding the imprint in the ground of where your family once lived. Let's say that they homesteaded in the 1870s in South Dakota, and now it is just farmland. But if you go out to Google Satellite View, you may be able to see an imprint in the ground of where the building once stood. And based on creeks and tree lines and things like that, you might be able to see the outline of where your family lived and where their land was. In the Midwest, I can see this more often than not, and it works really well. It can also show you where railroad lines used to be and maybe the imprint of where a church once stood that your ancestors went to. You can really find a lot of information by doing this. And I am going to show you an example now and walk you through it. If you're looking for other ways to find out where your ancestors lived, I'm also including a link to another one of my YouTube videos that goes step by step on how to find where your ancestors lived. I am going to show you an example of how you can use Google Satellite View to find long disappeared homesteads and waterways and railroads and things like that in order to find where your family lived. So I'm going to use an example of my great-great-grandfather, Robert Davidson McFarland. You can see him here at his farm near Washington, Iowa, in about, that's probably about 1908, I would guess. He was born in 1835 in Pennsylvania, but was in Iowa by the 1860s. And I have found through Historic MapWorks where his farm was located. You can see it highlighted over here in yellow. And it was actually near Ainsworth, Iowa, which is just a little bit east of Washington, Iowa. So I'm going to see if I can find that location through Google Satellite View. So I go out to Google Maps, go to Ainsworth, Iowa, and pan out a little bit because you can see that he is just a little bit southwest of there. So I look on the map here, and you can see this road, which corresponds to the road that was there in 1896. So I'm going to do the satellite view. I can still see my road there. I'm going to pull up this to compare. I usually try to get them about the same size. Makes it a lot easier. So you can see right here is that road where it goes down. And then even though the land has changed, you can see the outline of where his land was and the correlation to the road. You can see this little part that juts up right here was his neighbor's J.C. Nelson, where the residence was and is still there. And you can see down here is where R.D. McFarland's home would have been based on the little square here on the plat map. So then you can also see the outline through Google Satellite View of where his land was. It's right up along here. You can see the creek marked there too, and it has changed a little bit since then. They've gotten rid of this north fork of it, and only the south fork exists there. You can see traces of it too. So that is not his original home down there. I have searched down there through Google Street View, and I've driven by it, and it's a much more modern home, but you can see imprints here of other parts of his land. Another helpful thing for this is you can see the ghostly remains of old railroad lines. For instance, the McFarland family of mine talked about how they would flag down the train and ride to town, and you can see it was right here next to their land. And so they would take that into Ainsworth, into town, and then they would take a connecting train over here to Washington, Iowa. And you can see that that line still exists, but the one that they originally took is not. And that's just an example of one way that you can use satellite view to see into the past, basically. Thanks.
The Formidable Genealogist is a small family history research company consisting of 2 passionate and tenacious genealogists in the Midwest. In addition to research, we can also help people find their biological family through DNA, scan and digitally repair photos, slides, negatives, and documents, and create personalized family tree artwork based off of 30 or more templates on our website. Happy searching!